AstroPrinciple invites you into a gentle exploration of how Mars shapes the subtle currents of Manglik influence, reminding you that astrology is a language of energy, not fear. As you listen, let your breath settle and your awareness soften, because understanding Mars is really about understanding your own fire, your courage, and the way your inner strength expresses itself in relationships. A kundali is considered Manglik when Mars is placed in the first, second, fourth, seventh, eighth, or 12th house of the ascendant chart. This placement is known as Manglik Dosha or Kuja Dosha and is believed to intensify emotional reactions, assertiveness, and relationship patterns. Traditionally, it is associated with challenges, conflicts, or delays in marriage due to the heightened fire of Mars. In modern astrology, this dasha is understood as an energy imbalance rather than a fixed problem. It highlights where passion, protection, or impatience may rise, helping individuals understand how Mars influences compatibility, communication, and emotional balance. Aries carries the bold spark of Mars, and AstroPrinciple guides you to see Manglik influence not as a warning, but as a mirror of your natural intensity. When Mars rises strongly in your chart, your emotions move fast, your decisions move faster, and your relationships feel like a battlefield of passion and honesty. You seek partners who can match your fire without dimming their own. In the context of Manglik Dosha, your energy often shows up as impatience, quick reactions, or a deep desire to lead. Yet this same Mars also gives you courage, loyalty, and the ability to protect what you love. When you understand your own flame, you stop fearing its heat. You learn to channel it into clarity, communication, and conscious action. AstroPrinciple reminds you that Mars does not create conflict. It simply amplifies the truth you already carry. When you honor that truth, your relationships become stronger, steadier, and more soulful. Taurus moves with the calm strength of Venus. Yet when Mars influences your chart, AstroPrinciple shows how this steady Earth can warm into a slow, powerful fire. Manglik energy in Taurus does not erupt suddenly. It simmers beneath the surface, shaping your desires, your boundaries, and your expectations in love. You may appear peaceful, but Mars gives you a firm spine and a quiet intensity that emerges when something truly matters. In relationships, this can create moments of stubbornness or emotional resistance, especially when you feel rushed or misunderstood. Yet this same Mars also deepens your loyalty and your capacity to build long-lasting bonds. It teaches you to express your needs clearly rather than holding them inside. AstroPrinciple reminds you that Manglik influence in Taurus is not about conflict, but about awakening your inner strength. When you embrace that strength, you create relationships rooted in stability, honesty, and soulful connection. Gemini dances with Mercury's quicksilver mind. And when Mars influences your chart, AstroPrinciple reveals how your thoughts gain sharper edges and your words carry more fire. Manglik energy in Gemini often shows up through communication, fast reactions, bold opinions, or a restless desire to express what you feel before you fully understand it. This can create sparks in relationships, sometimes playful, sometimes challenging. Yet this same Mars also gives you courage to speak truth, explore deeper emotional layers, and break patterns of avoidance. You learn to use your voice not as a weapon, but as a bridge. When you understand your own mental fire, you stop fearing misunderstandings and start creating clarity. AstroPrinciple reminds you that Manglik influence in Gemini is a call to balance curiosity with compassion, speed with sensitivity, and passion with presence. When you do, your relationships become more vibrant, honest, and emotionally aligned. Cancer moves with the moon's tides, and when Mars influences your chart, AstroPrinciple shows how your gentle waters gain a protective heat. Manglik energy in Cancer often expresses itself through emotional intensity, deep reactions, strong attachments, and a fierce instinct to safeguard your heart and your home. You love with devotion, and Mars amplifies that devotion into action. Yet this same fire can sometimes make you defensive or sensitive to small shifts in tone or behavior. Understanding Manglik influence helps you see that your reactions come from care, not conflict. Mars teaches you to channel your emotional strength into healthy boundaries, honest conversations, and conscious nurturing. Astro Principle reminds you that your fire and your softness are not opposites. They are partners. When you honor both, your relationships become safe, warm, and deeply soulful, allowing your heart to express its full truth. Leo carries the radiant warmth of the sun, and when Mars influences your chart, Astro Principle reveals how your natural confidence gains a sharper, more assertive edge. Manglik energy in Leo often expresses itself through passion that refuses to be dimmed, a desire to lead in love, and a deep need for loyalty and respect. You love wholeheartedly, and Mars intensifies that devotion into bold gestures and strong expectations. At times, this fire can create moments of pride or emotional rigidity, especially when you feel unappreciated. Yet this same Mars also strengthens your courage, your creativity, and your ability to protect the relationships you value. Understanding Manglik influence helps you channel your fire into warmth rather than pressure, expression rather than dominance. Astro Principle reminds you that your heart is your greatest strength, and when your fire is guided by compassion, your relationships become vibrant, inspiring, and deeply soulful. Virgo moves with Mercury's thoughtful precision, and when Mars influences your chart, Astro Principle shows how your calm analysis gains a determined, action-oriented force. Manglik energy in Virgo often appears through high standards, quick observations, and a desire to fix what feels out of balance. You care deeply, and Mars amplifies that care into responsibility and effort. Yet this same fire can sometimes create inner tension, overthinking, or a tendency to expect too much from yourself or your partner. Understanding Manglik influence helps you see that your intensity comes from sincerity, not criticism. Mars teaches you to act with clarity rather than urgency, to express your needs without self-judgment, and to trust that love grows through presence, not perfection. Astro Principle reminds you that your strength lies in your ability to nurture through understanding. When your fire and your wisdom work together, your relationships become grounded, healing, and beautifully aligned. Libra moves with Venus's grace, and when Mars influences your chart, Astro Principle reveals how your gentle diplomacy gains a courageous voice. Manglik energy in Libra often expresses itself through a strong desire for fairness, deeper emotional honesty, and a need for balanced give and take in relationships. You naturally seek harmony, but Mars pushes you to confront imbalances rather than avoid them. This can create moments of inner conflict, where your heart wants peace, but your fire wants truth. Yet this same Mars also strengthens your ability to set boundaries, express your needs, and choose relationships that honor your worth. Understanding Manglik influence helps you see that conflict is not a threat, but a doorway to deeper connection. Astro Principle reminds you that your beauty lies in your ability to love with both softness and strength. When your fire supports your harmony, your relationships become more authentic, stable, and emotionally fulfilling. Scorpio carries the deep intensity of Mars, and Astro Principle shows how Manglik influence amplifies your natural emotional power. Your feelings run profound, your loyalty is unwavering, and your intuition is sharp. When Mars rises strongly in your chart, your passion becomes even more magnetic, shaping your relationships with depth, honesty, and a desire for soulful connection. Yet this same fire can sometimes create moments of possessiveness, emotional extremes, or a need for absolute clarity. Understanding Manglik influence helps you see that your intensity is not a flaw but a force that requires conscious direction. Mars teaches you to channel your depth into trust rather than fear, transformation rather than control, and vulnerability rather than guardedness. Astro Principle reminds you that your emotional fire is sacred. When you honor it with awareness, your relationships become powerful, healing, and profoundly aligned with your inner truth. Sagittarius moves with Jupiter's expansive wisdom, and when Mars influences your chart, Astro Principle reveals how your adventurous spirit gains a sharper, more determined flame. Manglik energy in Sagittarius often expresses itself through bold honesty, restless passion, and a desire for relationships that allow freedom without losing depth. You seek truth in everything, and Mars intensifies that search, pushing you to speak directly, act decisively, and follow your instincts even when others hesitate. At times, this fire can create impatience or a tendency to overlook emotional details in your pursuit of clarity. Yet this same Mars also strengthens your optimism, your courage, and your ability to rebuild after challenges. Understanding Manglik influence helps you channel your fire into conscious exploration rather than impulsive reactions. AstroPrinciple reminds you that your spirit grows brightest when your passion is guided by wisdom, creating relationships that feel expansive, honest, and deeply aligned with your inner truth. Capricorn moves with Saturn's disciplined strength, and when Mars influences your chart, AstroPrinciple shows how your steady determination gains a powerful, focused fire. Manglik energy in Capricorn often expresses itself through ambition, emotional restraint, and a deep desire to build relationships that stand the test of time. You value loyalty and responsibility, and Mars amplifies these qualities into action, making you protective, committed, and willing to work through challenges with patience. Yet this same fire can sometimes create rigidity or a tendency to hold emotions too tightly, especially when vulnerability feels risky. Understanding Manglik influence helps you see that your intensity comes from a place of care, not control. Mars teaches you to balance strength with softness, effort with openness, and discipline with emotional presence. AstroPrinciple reminds you that your relationships thrive when your fire supports your stability, creating bonds that are grounded, enduring, and deeply meaningful. Aquarius moves with Saturn's visionary clarity, and when Mars influences your chart, AstroPrinciple reveals how your independent mind gains a passionate, expressive force. Manglik energy in Aquarius often shows up through strong ideals, unconventional desires, and a need for emotional freedom within connection. You value authenticity, and Mars intensifies your drive to live and love on your own terms. This can create moments of emotional detachment or sudden bursts of intensity when something touches your deeper truth. Yet this same Mars also strengthens your courage to stand up for what you believe in, to communicate honestly, and to build relationships that honor individuality without losing intimacy. Understanding Manglik influence helps you channel your fire into conscious expression rather than unpredictability. AstroPrinciple reminds you that your uniqueness is your strength, and when your fire aligns with your vision, your relationships become inspiring, progressive, and deeply soulful. Pisces moves with Jupiter's gentle intuition, and when Mars influences your chart, AstroPrinciple shows how your compassionate waters gain a quiet but powerful heat. Manglik energy in Pisces often expresses itself through emotional depth, spiritual longing, and a desire for love that feels safe, meaningful, and transcendent. You feel everything intensely, and Mars amplifies that sensitivity into passion, creativity, and a strong instinct to protect your inner world. At times, this fire can create emotional overwhelm or a tendency to retreat when conflict arises. Yet this same Mars also strengthens your resilience, your imagination, and your ability to transform pain into wisdom. Understanding Manglik influence helps you channel your fire into clarity rather than confusion, expression rather than withdrawal. AstroPrinciple reminds you that your softness is not weakness, it is a sacred strength. When your fire and intuition work together, your relationships become healing, soulful, and beautifully aligned with your heart's truth. AstroPrinciple reminds you that understanding Manglik Dosha is not about fear but awareness, not about destiny but direction. Mars simply reveals how your inner fire moves through love, courage, and connection. When you honor that fire with clarity and compassion, you transform challenges into growth and relationships into soulful journeys. Let this wisdom guide you gently as you continue exploring the laws and sutras of astrology.